Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fight fans all over the world, my name is Robert Huddleston, and we're going to discuss the curious case of the Paul brothers and the state of combat sports. Now, the Paul brothers, Logan and Jake, have been making a lot of waves in boxing, but also in MMA, in combat sports in general. Jake recently knocked out NBA player Nate Robinson on the Tyson Roy undercard, and his older brother Logan has secured a boxing match with Floyd Mayweather. You know, the biggest boxer on earth right now. Allegedly the best. Most will say he's the best. I'm not going to say all that. But the biggest name you could get in boxing, he now has a fight with. And Jake called out Conor, Dylan Dennis, Mike Bisping, and Ben Askren to boxing matches. And Ben Askren agreed. It does not appear that Logan or that Jake has agreed yet. So whether that fight will occur or not, I don't know. Now you can go listen to Chael breakdown, and it's a good breakdown that Jake has been boxing more and is younger than Ben, but Ben also has a level of preparing as an athlete for the highest levels of high school, NCAA, the Olympics, and MMA for 3 decades now, right? That he'll be able to prepare enough to bridge the gap in pure boxing. No one believes that Logan can win against Floyd. You're simply watching the freak discrepancy of like half a foot in height and 50 pounds. Unless Floyd makes him make some ridiculous weight, which Logan said he would dispute. A lot of people seem to have a problem with this. Big John McCarthy is like, why is this happening? Why are these YouTube guys calling out MMA guys into boxing matches? And he thinks it's silly and unnecessary and just shouldn't even be happening. Thinks it's a bad move for Ben. Mike Bisping thinks a lot of people are picking Ben to lose this boxing match if it occurs. And I'm like, does no one remember when the Outsiders left the WWF to go to the WCW? Now, if you're an MMA purist, don't get insulted, so am I. I don't think wrestling and MMA are the same. But I've been a fan of both for as long as I can remember. Now, I'm not an active fan right now of like watching current wrestling. It's not my thing at this stage in life. But I love to look back nostalgically and hear stories of like what happened with Sting and Stone Cold backstage or whatever, right? That shit's fun. I don't know who's wrestling today, but I'll give credit. It's physical theater. They're tougher than I am. But most people who you're a fan of MMA or you're a fan of wrestling, and if the two are compared, you get insulted. If you're on the outside of both of those, you think they are the same. You're like, you think that stuff's real? Like what, the UFC? Yeah. I think the UFC is real. You probably don't. You, from the outside, fighting in a ring, fighting in a cage, fighting in a pit, it's all the same thing. They're not, but we're going to do a artistic comparison. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were Razor Ramon and Diesel, a good guy and a bad guy in the WWF, now the WWE. They left, did a big break protocol and high-fived their buddies, other good guys and bad guys, at their last night at the Garden before they came to WCW. I won't use the word pretend anymore. We all know they're not really fighting. So for kayfabe purposes and explanation, I'm not going to stop and say pretend. They come to WCW under the guise of two unwelcome outsiders, hence the name, that don't have contracts, are not allowed backstage, do not have the right to compete within the league. They're only allowed to buy tickets. They have to continually crash or B&E or sneak into the arenas. And they're coming in behind stage, attacking people, gangland style, breaking all the rules, demanding X, Y, and Z, respect, clout, and swearing they're taking over. It's not a negotiation. They're here and you can't stop us. You have no right to be here. Well, if you want to make me leave, you have to fight me. It was the pinnacle of pro wrestling. Ask any other pro wrestling dork and they're going to say, boy, it's hard to beat that run the NWO had, the outsiders coming to the WCW. To unwelcome guys showing up and demanding a piece of the pie that they had not allegedly earned, but were prepared to beat you up over it then and there. I mean, that's what the Paul brothers are doing. They're the outsiders, and they're doing a wonderfully good job of it. They're showing up to a combat arena where they are not welcome. They don't have, well, I mean, they're licensed to fight now, but according to the purist community, they don't have the right. They haven't paid their dues. They should not be allowed to fight on the cards with guys like Tyson and Roy. Certainly not fight Floyd Mayweather. Outsider sticks seem to work. I mean, they took a page right out of the two best bad guys in the business. Sports entertainment. I'm not calling MMA or boxing or pro wrestling, no distinction at this point, for people who enjoy showing up and watching some sort of entertaining violence. These guys are knocking it out of the park. And everybody's just hating on them. Now, I'm not saying Jake Paul can beat Ben Askren. He might. I'm not saying Logan Paul's going to beat Floyd Mayweather. Shit, I hope he does. Everybody's insulted that he's even getting the chance to fight. Do you not want to see Logan Paul beat Floyd Mayweather? Like the greatest upset of all time. You don't want to see him. You're going to tune in. If you're a fan of Floyd, if you're a boxing purist, if this insults you, you're going to tune in to see your honor upheld, right? I'm going to tune in. I would love to see Logan Paul catch Floyd Mayweather. And I don't believe in lucky punches. If you train to throw punches, it wasn't lucky. If I caught Floyd Mayweather, that's a lucky punch. I don't throw 3,000 punches a day with a coach. Whether I did it since I was 2 or I picked it up at 24 because I'm a millionaire. I'm now training to throw punches. I'm licensed and I'm going to get paid. There's no lucky punches there. I really want to see the outsiders come in and take over. I don't particularly like them, but I don't hate them more than I hate Floyd Mayweather. And Floyd Mayweather's made his career of making you hate him. Now all of a sudden everybody's like, he's the Pope. He's the Pope of boxing. He must be protected from the insult. He took this fight. He obviously thinks he can win. He knows the money is there. If the money were there, he'd fight Canelo again. If the money were there, he would fight Manny Pacquiao again. Nobody wants to see those fights. Why is this fight happening? Why would Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather fight? Because people want to see it. Big John McCarthy. Why would Ben Askren take a boxing match against Jake Paul? Because, damn it, that's fun. Is there anyone else you want to see Ben Askren or Jake Paul fight? We're not talking about Israel Adesanya saying, I'm not defending my belt at 185 and I'm not going up to fight Jan Blachowicz. I'm going to go fight Alexander Usyk. Okay, we'd sign off on that. Even though he put a couple divisions at hold, we were cool with it when Conor did it. And there would be people that got hurt and had consequences. There would be a lot of reasons to say, why is this fight happening? Because people are going to watch. There's only 2 avenues in combat sports, whether it's pro wrestling or boxing or MMA, the World Combat League, the judo circuit. You want to fight this guy because he has the belt. He has the prize or the trophy or the ranking above you. That's what you want. You're fighting for competitive nature. Or you're fighting because you work in the avenue of a combat league and this person insulted you personally. They slept with your spouse, they stole your retirement, they insulted your father's heritage or foundation or stable or league or whatever it is. They did you dirty outside of the competitive arena, and you would like to punish them inside the competitive arena. Or you want their clout, their prize, their trophy within the competitive arena. The best stories have both. George Masvidal and Colby Covington comes to example. Two guys who were best friends, trained together, came up together, lived together. Their flower blossomed at the same time. Static happened. They're both in the top 5. They both recently lost to the 170-pound champ. They both say they learned what they need to learn to beat him again. That's got everything. They don't like one another. There's story, all kind of history. There's the competitive avenue. It's both. It's all. They got beef, and it's competition, right? Well, Logan Paul and Jake Paul are coming in saying, you fighters, this is the fight game. And it was like, you can't say you're in the fight game. Well, they're getting fights booked. They're telling fighters, we don't like the way you're fighting. We think you conduct yourself in an unbrave way. They called them bitch and pussy, and you insult them. I'm insulting your manhood. I'm insulting your courage. Plus, there's a lot of money to be made. No one here's a champ. Floyd Mayweather could be considered a champ. He retired with belts. I don't know what rank a belt would be on the line. The clout of being the greatest boxer of all time is on the line. But there's only two avenues of story. It's personal or it's competitive. Well, the Paul brothers are making a great environment where they've stepped in as the outsiders, throwing water balloons, insulting people's wives, telling them, stop being soft. This is the fight game. Plus, I'm doing all this because I think I can beat you up at something you do. I can come in as a late-in-life, part-time YouTube guy and beat up the guys who are supposed to be the best at it because you're all fake, you're all slack, you're all fake news. That's the best story I've heard in boxing in 20 years, minus Tyson Fury. One storyline in boxing anybody gave a shit about, and it was a giant who beat everybody, became a drug addict, got to 400 pounds, lost it all, came back and fought the best to a draw, came back and smothered the best. All right, that's a hell of a story. Aside from that, name me a story in the past 20 years in boxing. Did you guys watch the Super Middleweight Super 6 tournament? I did. Didn't turn out as good as we all thought it would. Good fights, not the story we thought it was going to be. Any of those Mayweather fights turn out to be a great riveting tale? Can you name me a cruiserweight that fought in the last 15 years? No. Nobody's tuning into boxing because the competitive structure isn't interesting, and nobody knows any of the characters to care what their beefs are. So why would Jake Paul pick Ben Askren? Because he's a big enough name, it's oddly competitive, and we're all going to tune in. So I'm all for the new outsiders. I'm all for the new Paul order coming in and taking over boxing because, boy, boxing has just been boring lately. And why would they involve MMA? Because sometimes MMA is boring. Ben Askren's a riveting character who just didn't get the play he should have. Right now, Colby and George are the two most interesting characters in the sport. That fight's not being made. So here comes the Paul brothers to make interesting, competitive fights and a bunch of money. Quit being haters. Start being fight fans again. This is too sweet. Tell me what you think. Like, subscribe, share. God bless you. Happy New Year.